Hello Rajesh, Namaste Rohit ji.
Hi Rajesh, how are you?
Excellent, I'm good, thank you. Hello Deva.
Hi Rajesh, how are you?
I'm good Deva. Okay, so it's 8:30. So let's listen to our prayer and get started.
सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Okay, good evening. Welcome back. So today we are doing a quick recap of chapter 7. We completed or we reviewed all the 30 verses in 12 sessions. And today we will do a quick recap of the entire chapter and try to see the chapter holistically. And also, what we will try to do is if you have any questions, we can try to answer that. So that's the agenda. And then what we discussed is we will temporarily stop and then we will resume in September with chapter 8. So this is the plan. So let's start with a quick introduction. So we started this chapter by going to the top level classification. So the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and these 18 chapters are organized into 3 sections. The first section, which is chapter 1 to 6, the key focus is the individual I. Key focus. Of course, there are other topics discussed, but the key topic is the Tvam Pada, meaning you are talking about the individual I. And then the second topic, which is chapters 7 to 12, the key focus is the highest reality, Ishvara, the Lord of the universe, which is known as the Tat Pada. And finally, the last section, which is chapters 13 to 18, the key focus is the relationship between the individual and the Ishvara. So this chapter happened to be the first chapter. The seventh chapter happens to be the first chapter in the second section, which is going to talk about Ishvara. So Krishna, or the Ishvara, Krishna is not as Mr. Krishna. I always say that. Krishna identified as the Lord of the universe. It is identified with the absolute reality in its transcendent form. Krishna is talking to us. And what is his goal? He wants to reveal his identity to us, because typically we all have a different perception on who is Ishvara, etc. So the goal of this chapter is to introduce Ishvara, help us to find Ishvara, and help us to understand why it is so difficult for an ordinary person to see Ishvara. What are all the different types of devotees of Ishvara, and what is the highest or most evolved devotee? And finally, like, why some people settle with small things when the potential is the highest. So that topic is discussed. And finally, Krishna is saying that what is the way of knowing me? So this is the whole topics covered in this chapter. And the very first verse, Krishna means, so this is what the key topics in the chapter 7. The first one is the nature of Ishvara and the worship of Ishvara, and the divine grace is given in the chapter. And the first verse itself, Krishna tells, I am going to give you the complete knowledge and instructions to reveal Ishvara. But for that, we need to follow some conditions or some practices. And those three practices were given as Mai Asakta Manaha. Fix the mind upon me. See the knowledge of the truth as an ultimate or a prioritized goal of our life. Because most of us need Ishvara, but not as an end, by as a means. Because I seek God's help for solving my promotion issue, or gaining a bonus. So what exactly is the goal? That goal, ultimate goal, is not Ishvara. The ultimate goal is bonus, and I use Ishvara's grace as a means. There is nothing wrong in that. But if you want to know me in its entirety, you have to set knowing the Ishvara as a highest priority. And the greatest reward for this effort is ultimate freedom from all the sufferings. So that is why this goal is very important. And then he tells, practice all the spiritual disciplines. Yogam yunjan. Establish yourself in yoga. Yoga here means the spiritual practices. So conduct all the spiritual practices. And then what? Means Maya Sakta Mana Partha Yogan Yunjan Madashrayaha. Have faith and surrender to me. Because without faith, you will not reach me. So once you do that, Krishna say, Asamshayam samagramam yatha jnasisi tashruno. You will know me in its entirety, not as a limited being. You will come to know in the full scope of Ishvara. You will realize the Ishvara in its entirety. So this was the promise given by Krishna. And then if you remember, Krishna told, like, I'm not just going to give you the theoretical knowledge. I'm going to tell you the practical means also by which you can know me. And then he started introducing the Ishvara. So if you remember, we had a long discussion about this topic. The topic is the Ishvara has two different aspects. One is called the transcendent nature, and the other one is called the immanent nature. The transcendent nature means I use the Swapna Drishtanda, the dream analogy. So in that dream analogy, when I dream, the person who is dreaming is beyond the dream world. He lives in a different world. He lives in a different order of the reality. So a person in the dream, it is very difficult to comprehend the scope and all aspects of the person who is doing the dream. So that is why it is known as transcendent. Whereas what is appearing in the order of the universe I live, for example, if it is a dream world, if anything in the dream world, I'll be able to see that clearly in the dream world. Otherwise, the dream should be a lucid dream. So here what Krishna is telling us is how to transfer me to that lucid dream. So the transcendent nature is there, immanent nature is there. So in that immanent nature, Krishna is saying that I express myself as the cause of the material cause of the universe. So the first identity is revealed. The real material cause of the universe is Ishvara. It is Ananya Nimitta Ubadhana Karana. That is what? Nimitta Karana Ubadhana Karana. So Krishna is telling that. So he tells, in my lower nature, I expresses as eightfold. So the physical matter comes out of me, and the subtle matter comes out of me. The combination of spiritual and subtle matter is the entire universe, the material universe. So per the then ancient worldview, the physical matter constitutes of five great elements. It is earth, water, air, fire, and space. In the modern analogy, we can loosely connect that with solid, liquid, gas, plasma, and the absence of any other state. So that is the physical elements. And the combination of these elements as the entire names and forms of the universe. So at that point of time, I said that based on the new model, it is not 5 elements, it is 105 plus elements. Even if we take that, we can say that I am the cause of all these 105 elements. That is the physical matter. And we also try to differentiate what is physical world versus what is subtle world. The subtle matter is, I gave the example of that hard disk. Like the data goes into the hard disk, it is not going to add any weight to the hard disk. It cannot be touched or seen. That is what the subtle matter is. And the subtle matter here is known as mind, intellect, and ego. So this subtle matter also comes out of me. So the physical matter comes out of me, and the subtle matter also comes out of me. So I am the material fabric of the entire universe, Krishna tells. And he explained the Srishtik Prakriya. So the absolute reality is known as Sat Vastu, or the Para Prakriti. From that Para Prakriti, this Apara Prakriti bonds out, and this Apara Prakriti has this eightfold elements, like the physical elements as well as the subtle element. Combination of this physical and the subtle element is the entire universe. So this is what Krishna is explaining. And then he tells, I have a higher nature also. The higher nature is known as Para Prakriti. Para Prakriti is my transcendent nature, and it is of the nature of Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means existence, the existence that goes into any being, whether it is the sun, on the moon, on the star, whether it is the plant, animal, or the human, whether it is a subatomic particle, electron, positron, or neutron, whatever it is, the material existence is me. The second aspect Krishna has said is, like, I am of the nature of consciousness. So the consciousness, which is different from matter, it is the ability of knowing my mental subtle activity is what is consciousness. So at that point of time, we stopped and we defined the consciousness, what is consciousness means in Vedanta, which is different from the neurological definition of consciousness. So in Vedanta, we define consciousness as that by which we are aware of our mental activity. That awareness principle, that conscious principle. And Krishna is saying that that is my higher nature. And because of this conscious principle, we are conscious about the world and there is life. So there is Para Prakriti. From Para Prakriti, the Apara Prakriti is born. And from Apara Prakriti, the physical matter and the subtle matter born out. And the combination of this physical matter and the subtle matter is the entire material world. And when there is a combination of physical and subtle matter, as in the case of a human or a plant, all the living being, it is capable of reflecting the consciousness, which is of the nature of the Atman. And when the consciousness reflects, living beings are born out. So Krishna tells, Jiva Bhudam Mahabahu Yayedam Tharyate Jagat. I am not just the material cause of the universe, but I am the conscious principle that makes the life possible in the universe. So Apara Prakriti also comes from the Para Prakriti, and the Para Prakriti gives consciousness to all the living beings. This was such an important topic. Anybody has any question on this? Because this is such an important topic, and nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna explained this with this clarity of this topic. Okay, that's great. So there are two things: the entire existence of the universe, Brahman, or the absolute reality, is the sustainer of the entire universe. Actually, it provides existence, consciousness to all being, and it is of the nature Satyam Jnanam Anantam. another way of looking at the Ishvara. And I remember I am calling out one talk by Swami Sarvapriyananda ji, the God defined. That's a lecture Rajesh ji has posted this in our group. Hope you had a chance to watch that. And that lecture is entirely focused on this aspect. Satyam, absolute reality. Jnanam means all-knowing. And Anantam means infinite. And that Anantam itself is brilliantly defined. Desha Kala Vastu Parichinnaha. It's not limited by space, it is not limited by time, and it is not limited by objectivity. So this is what it is. So the Paraprakriti is the sustainer of the entire universe, and it is the cause. It is not the case. It is the cause of our Prakriti, and it supports the life by providing consciousness. Apara Prakriti means it is the material cause of the universe, whereas the Apara Prakriti is the sustainer of the universe. And it consists of physical and subtle matter. So this was a clear classification of the universe. So Krishna basically is saying that it is because of me the universe exists.
Rajaji, I had a quick question.
Yeah, please.
What is the difference between the consciousness sustained by Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti?
What is the difference between the Apara Prakriti is not sustaining the consciousness. Apara Prakriti is inert and insentient, right? Inert and means there is no sentiency there. So Apara Prakriti is what is giving the consciousness. Apara Prakriti is only matter, like it is the physical and subtle matter. But when the physical and subtle matter combination is there, the consciousness aspect of the Para Prakriti reflects there, and hence we have life. That is the model of Vedanta.
So consciousness is different from subtle matter, right?
Absolutely. Consciousness is different from subtle matter. The subtle matter is the mind, intellect, and ego, right? So it is called Antakarana. It is the subtle body. If you remember the other classification we had in the Vedanta or in the Bhagavad Gita study, we studied about the physical body, subtle body, causal body. Consciousness is completely different from the physical body and the subtle body. And the consciousness is the nature of the Paraprakriti. And this is the consciousness what we defined as Atma in that.
Yes, yes. And yeah, subtle body is different from Atma. Sure.
Atma. Yeah. Good. That's great. I think this is a very good topic to understand. If you get only this idea from this chapter itself, this is great. This chapter, it's really valuable. And what is the nature of the Ishvara? He tells, I am the ultimate cause of the universe. Ultimate cause. So I gave 5 different comments on this, right? Absolute cause, meaning there is no other, means it is the fundamental cause of the universe. Remember, we had that example. The pot comes from the clay. If you take the clay comes from elements. The elements comes from atom. The elements comes from molecule. Molecule comes from atom. Atom comes from subatomic particle. If you go back. Where exactly is the root? Absolute reality. A reality that is not dependent upon anything. That is why it is called uncaused cause. It's a phrase coined by Swami Chinmayananda. Brilliant usage. Uncaused cause, independent cause, ananya nimitta upadhana karanam. So it is independent because everything else is dependent upon something else for its existence, whereas the God or the reality is not dependent upon anything for its existence, and it is the complete cause. Everything covers by that, and it is the material and intelligent cause, nimitta upadhana karana. And Krishna is saying that there is no other cause for me. I am never the effect of anything. So this is so brilliant. Honestly, I haven't seen such a clear definition or clear exposition of Ishvara. Any other scriptures. Upanishad is of course there, but just go and read. This is so complete. The scope is so large. So that is being explained. And then the problem is, so Ishvara is the material cause and the intelligent cause. Everything came from Ishvara. But why I'm not seeing Ishvara? I'm seeing everything else but Ishvara. So Krishna said, no, you can see me. Even though I'm transcendent, I might be, you can see me in the cosmos, because The cosmos is created by me, and that I am totally, it's not that I changed myself and became the universe. If you remember, at that point of time, I introduced the Srishti Prakriya in Vedanta. So I went through a lot of other competing or contradicting, means other schools of thoughts. For example, if you take the Bhakti tradition of Hindus, or the Christians, or the entire Christianity is based upon the theory called creatio ex nihilo. So this is means the effects came from nothing, right? So God created the universe out of nothing. That is what the Christian theory is, and that is what our Bhakti schools also almost expounding to. And then when it comes to the higher thing, we have two schools. One is called means in Indian theory we call it as Asat Karyavada, where creation means something out of nothing. And then we come to Satkaryavada, means there are two things. One is called Parinamavada, and the other one is Vivartavada. In our school, Sankhya follows the Parinamavada, whereas the Vedanta goes to the Vivartavada. So Vivartavada means Ananya Aphinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. So you are not, means when the pot is created, nothing has happened to clay. The clay is the pot, but you're seeing the pot in the clay. That is what the whole idea is. You're seeing an ornament in the gold because nothing happened to the gold. And nothing will happen to the gold when the pot, means the ornament, disappears. You're seeing the wave, but actually the wave is nothing but water. The top of the wave is water, the middle of the wave is water, the wave is nothing but water. So, but you are seeing that as a wave. That is called Vivartavada, and that is what Krishna is pointing out here. So, when the God's manifestation, which is not a transformed manifestation, why I am not seeing God in the universe? So that is what is explained in the next few words. Krishna said, open your eyes, you will see me. Whenever there is a glory in the universe, understand that the Ishvara is getting reflected there properly. So why everywhere you won't see that glory? Because even if the sun is there, means I use the bucket water example to explain this. The water needs to be pure and the water needs to be steady for the sun to reflect properly. So wherever the sun is reflecting, you can see that. So to give that example, Krishna gave 14 examples where you can see the God. So he said, like, whenever you taste water, you see a wetness and a taste and understand that it is me. Whenever you see light from the sun and the moon, that light is nothing but me. And that is called Prabha and Pradibimba. Prabha means the self-effulgent light of the sun, and the reflecting light of the moon. That is me. I am the God. Wherever you hear the name of the God, wherever you see a temple, church, or mosque, where people talk about God, that God is me. And I am the sound you hear, right? Whenever you hear a good sound, that is me. And the manliness in the man, womanliness in the women, and this good fragrance, when you get a good fragrance from a flower, that is me. Recognize me. The heat of the fire is nothing but me. And I'm the life in all the living being. Whenever you see a life, you should know that it is me, right? So there is a means to recognize me. And whenever you do a spiritual practice, you gain some power. Even if you do a simple meditation, you can see that your focus has improved. So that is me. And I'm the seed of all the being. Bijam mam sarva bhutani. Every being comes out of me. So whenever you see a living being, understand that it is me. And intelligence, wherever you see some intelligent work, when you see the Verizona Bridge, for example, when you look at the architecture, you cannot but appreciate Ishvara. You may see that it is human intellect, but the human intelligence of the human intellect is Ishvara. When you see a rocket launching to a planet, or when you see a satellite, you see the glory of Ishvara. When the coronavirus vaccine comes out, you can see that it is Ishvara's glory, because the human intelligence is nothing but Ishvara's intelligence. So that is what intelligence is, Ishvara. So then the strength, brilliance of the fire, the strength of the strong, Kama Raga Vivarjitam, the Dharma-based strength is Ishvara. And the desires, the kamas, like I want to study Gita or I want to do this, if that desire is aligned with Dharma, understand that is Ishvara. So in the next one chapter, like I believe it is 11 or 10, I think 10, Vibhuti Yoga, you will see a detailed expression of this topic. So Krishna is trying to point out like everything in the universe, how to see Ishvara. And very similar thing is described in the Rudram, which we covered here in one of the Tuesday series. Rudram, you saw, right? Everything in the universe, right? Vrichepyu, Risheshepyu. Like when you see a leaf, understand that it is me. When you see a plant, understand that it is me. Whenever you get water to drink, understand that it is me. Whenever you eat food, understand that it is me. So you cannot miss Ishvara. You may not see Ishvara in the form of Krishna with all these decorations and all these ornaments, but definitely you cannot miss Ishvara if you open the eyes. So this is very important topic covered in this chapter. And then Krishna tells why people fails to see me, because I'm so much obvious in the universe. When I'm so much obvious in the universe, why people fail to see? Because under the influence of gunas, because people are carried away by the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, because every mind has its own composure. Who create that mental composure? We ourselves. Because of the act we do, what happens? We put so much of dirt into our mind, and because of that we fail to see our own identity. And with that deluded vision, you will not see Ishvara. You will see the sun, but you fail to recognize Ishvara there. So even though you see the expressions of Ishvara, you don't see the Ishvara. And I quoted Tolstoy's story at this point of time. Whenever a person who begs came to his house, whenever a poor women coming to his house, came to his house, when a poor child came to his house, he saw Jesus in them. So he had that eyes. So that is why if it is you and me, we won't see that. And we will treat them as a poor person or as child. That's what happens. So under the influence of gunas, we fail to see Ishvara. And then what happens? That doesn't mean that, right? There are two categories of people. Some people are dushkritis, like because of their wrong action, they don't even recognize this presence of Ishvara in the universe. So that people, Krishna called them, they fall into the category of asuras. Asuras means it is not that somebody with a horn or a long, big teeth, not at all. A person who don't see any higher purpose of life, a person who do not see any higher existence is known as asura. On contrary to asura, there are people like Sukritins who recognize and worship Ishvara. They may not understand the Ishvara in its complete form, but at least they recognize that beyond my effort, beyond my skills, there is an X factor. And that X factor is going to give me the results. And depending upon the attitude and approach and the type of prayers, there are 4 categories of people who worship Ishvara. All these categories, they recognize Ishvara's presence, they recognize this X factor, but why they relate to Ishvara, it is totally different from person to person. And the first category is known as Artaha. He had a problem. He is struggling with some problem and he wanted to get out of that problem. And that person is called Artaha. And Artharthi, the second one, is he's not suffering by a problem, but he wants to gain something. As I said, like it could be a promotion, or it could be a house, or it could be a car, or it could be something else. It could be a wife, it could be a child, whatever it is. But he wants to get something. And so really speaking, the goal of Artha and Artharthi is not Ishvara or the higher purpose of the life. Their goal is something less, but they want Ishvara as a catalyst or as a help to gain these two goals. So that is Artaha and Artharthi. And then there is a Jitnyasu. Jitnyasu means he hasn't known Ishvara in its complete entirety, but he is curious to know. So he put a lot of effort to know Ishvara. So that is Jitnyasu. All of us can be categorized in that category. But that doesn't mean that a Jitnyasa means, as I said, like this is not a black and white. Artha means that doesn't mean that he is not a Jitnyasu or Artharthi. Absolutely not. A person can be a Jitnyasu, at the same time he can be Artha and Artharthi, right? So we had that extensive discussion. And the final category is Jnani. Jnani means the one who recognizes the Ishvara in its entirety. So that is what is Jnani. So this jnani is what the person who need to know Ishvara. Okay. So that is Artho, Jijnasur, Artharthi, Jnani. And out of all these four devotees, Jnani is always united with Ishvara. Or the most matured devotee is Jnani. Because Artha's goal is want to get out of the dukkham or the pain. Artharthi wants to gain some joy. That is the difference. One is dukkha nivritti, and Artharthi is sukha nivritti. Sukha pravritti. He seeks joy. Jijnasu want to go beyond joy and sorrow and want to know Bhagavan. So this Jijnasu. And Jnani means he knows Bhagavan. He is always connected to Bhagavan. So that is the thing. And then
sorry, I had a quick question.
Sure.
So Jnani is someone who knows himself to be the Atma.
Correct.
And who knows that he is connected to God.
Correct.
Then how can we call such a person a devotee?
It's devotee means devotee here means the person who is not sitting and worshipping. The devotee, the definition we started right here. The definition of devotee means one who knows the higher presence, the presence of Ishvara. That's it. So how he uses the presence of Ishvara, it varies from Artho, Jijnasur, Artharthi, right? Artha will pray. Means for a jnani, he do not need to pray because he is already himself in that. He remains connected. So just that is the difference. So it's not that he has to worship. He means, and our traditional understanding of a devotee means a person who is a seeker, right? He's seeking something, which is different. Bhaktaha means the one who is connected with the Bhagavan in one way or the other, right? That's it.
I was asking Rajaji because Ramakrishna Paramahansa and Ramana Maharishi, they were both Jnanis, but yet they were also worshipping
Absolutely.
Kali.
Absolutely. So yeah, so they were jnanis, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Ramana Maharshi, or even the other people. Lot of people are still devotees. Because why do they do that? Because they have to set an example to the world, and also the expression of devotion. When Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he himself was a priest, that was his job, that was his karma. So he has to perform. The third reason, for example, a person who is, for example, even Sai Baba, right? So they call it as, means he himself was a devotee. He used to praise the name of the God. So what happens is they say it just comes naturally in them. Like it is the natural expression of them. And why Ramakrishna Paramahamsa or a Ramana Maharshi or a Sai Baba, they go and pray to God. They don't pray to God for not to get rid of anything. So Ramakrishna Paramahamsa could have prayed to Kali to remove his cancer. He didn't do that. It is your wish. Just let your wish be done. That's it. So he is not praying for the removal of any dukkha or the gain of any sukha. Means that is their natural way of expression. That's it. So it is very difficult for you and I to conceive the mind of a jnani because we are not at reach there. But as a person belonging to the other three category, I think we need to worship God. We need to do our karma yoga and the upasana yoga. Yep. So then what happens? Suppose since people have not realized or understood the God or the Ishvara in its full entirety, right? What happens is they're getting devoted to the other deities because their end is not the knowledge. For example, my goal is only a house. So what happens? I might be naturally get attached to the money. Money is my goal. So my worship is for the money, and that is what is called as other deities. And what happens? Krishna tells each one of them has their own ritual. And that is what is symbolically represented in the Vedic rituals as a ritual. But in the modern world, when it translates into Laukika Karma, it is studying the stock market, actually engaging the priest who would be a financial advisor, right? That's the role of the priest. And he brokerage for you to the god of wealth. And eventually you get prasadas. That is what happens. So this is exactly what is represented. So such people who do not know the God in its full scope, they get connected with the other deities. And Krishna is saying that this is nothing wrong in that, right? So he tells that you are settling with low. So you could have done much bigger. You are settling with low, and means people get attached to the other deities. So the other deities means in the Puranic sense, it is the Indra, Varuna, Agni, all those people, Kubera. So that's why you have all these temples with all these deities, right? Suppose you go to a temple in America, you could see almost every deity you can think in that temple. As I said, so like Swami Chinmayananda was joking, like he said, the temple building in America, this was his last lecture, the final lecture he was telling, the temple building in America, what happens? He creates a zoo of God. That is what happens. It's okay. This is nothing wrong in that. And also in the modern world, we pursue so many paths. As long as they are aligned with dharma, that is okay. You go and finally you come back to me. That's it, Krishna tells. And Krishna also telling, like whenever you will get blessed if you put dharmic effort, and if you are committed to that cause, according to the law of karma, you will get the results. And understand that I am the karma bhaladada. Whenever you invest money in the stock market, you get good results. Understand that my blessings was there. Without my blessing, nothing will happen. That is what is devoted to the other deities. And we talked about one idea called difference in results. Like when you commit to the other devotees, you definitely get results, but that results are limited. Even if you get some $100 million or $1 billion, what is the use? How long you can use it? Maximum till the end of your life. After that, it is gone, right? What is the benefit? So the results given by other deities are limited, but the result you gain by committing to the absolute reality or the Ishvara is infinite. So there is a huge difference between them. So that is explained. And then the problem is the mental preferences. As I explained earlier, right from the beginning of this creation, people are deluded because of the karma, right? This duality, people always get attached to this duality and nature, and they fail to see Ishvara. And the key problem is the obsession and aversion. We all have this raga dvesha. We have strong likes and dislikes. And with that strong likes and dislikes, what happens? It is going to affect the selection of our action. It is going to affect the execution of our action. And it is going to affect our response towards the results of the action. So our entire life is controlled by this aversion and obsession. And Krishna is saying that you need a means to get out of that. And that is what is explained in the next verse, which is freedom from mental impression. So how can you escape from these clutches of raga dvesha? Because you cannot avoid raga dvesha as long as you are living in this world. It is impossible. So, but you don't have to come under the control of the raga dvesha. Like it could be karma yoga, means for that you need to do two things. One is you need to get the chitta shuddhi and the chitta sthiti. And the chitta shuddhi is through karma yoga, and the chitta sthiti is through upasana yoga. So when you committed to karma yoga and upasana yoga, what happens? You will gain freedom from all the impurities, and the mind will be calm and quiet. And when the mind is calm and quiet, what is going to happen is it is capable of seeking knowledge, and eventually you will come to know Ishvara. That was the final verse of this chapter. So when the karma yoga, upasana yoga purifies your mind and stabilize your mind, you will come to me as Adi Bhuta and Adi Deva. It is the fundamental cause of the universe, the material cause of the universe, and Adi Deva, it is the fundamental deity of the universe. And that is where Krishna, and you will come to know the nature of karma, and you will come to know me in my entirety. And this is how he concludes the chapter. There is only 30 verses in this chapter, and this chapter is such an important chapter because it clarifies. Because as I said, like this was the first chapter I studied when I got introduced to Bhagavad Gita. I was so lucky to listen Swami Chinmayananda's talk on this chapter, and that is what has attracted me to Bhagavad Gita. Before that, I had no knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So this chapter, it redefines your concept of God, because a lot of people say that I don't believe in God. So Swami Chinmayananda always used to say, when somebody say I don't believe in God, what they don't believe is their concept of the God, not the actual God, right? So when you try to paint their concept, that concept is not worth to believe most of the case. Important, right? When an agnostic, because what it means, I talked about this also in the class. What is the difference between an agnostic and an atheist? The atheist is claimed that there is no higher existence. Agnostic means I don't know. That is more honest. But atheist, how can he say that his understanding is correct? Because he never understood it, or he never put effort to understand it. Without understanding, nobody can dismiss it. So that is what. The concept is wrong, and this chapter gives the right idea. And even the devotees of Krishna, even Krishna's own devotees, they don't understand him properly. And I wish they come and study his own words, which is the Bhagavad Gita, which is this chapter. They would have got a good understanding. So let's give 5 minutes for any question answer, 5 or 10 minutes for any question and answers. And if Anu is there, we can do a quick chanting. She said she will join around 9:15. So we have 5 more minutes.
Sure. Hey, Rajesh.
Yes, Grihiji.
Quick question. Can you explain the transcendental nature of Isvara and the lucid dream? Just for...
Sure. Absolutely. So imagine that I'm dreaming. So like I have an existence in this universe, right? In this order of reality. We call it as relative reality or Vyavaharika world. So I am living in the world with this time and space, and night 12 o'clock, I go to bed and I sleep. In my sleep, what happens? I dream. And in that dream, I saw that I was in Rishikesh, chatting with few monks and having a dip in the Ganges. So the order of reality is totally different. So means as a waker, I'm staying in North Brunswick and lying on the bed. But in my mind, using my mind stuff, I created a new world. And I'm also a character in that new world. So let's say that a person in that dream world, if he tries to know the person who created this dream, it is very difficult for him, because that person who created the dream is not within confined to the time and space or the order of reality he is in. So when we try to understand an Ishvara or the creator of the universe or the sustainer of the universe, which is outside of the time and space framework I live in, and that is what is known as transcendent, because it is not directly accessible to me, which is in a different order of the reality. So it is like a dreamer means drinking means I'm thirsty. The water I took in the dream cannot quench my thirst here. That's exactly what happens, because this is two orders of reality. Now the problem is a person in that dream, imagine that he is going to pray to the God. Oh, creator of the universe, protect me. Or the creator of the universe changed my course of action. Only person who can do is the one who created the dream, which is the person who is lying in the bed. But the problem is, let's say that I am also a character in that dream. And I am struggling. A tiger is chasing me. I'm crying to God. But without knowing that, the person who created the dream is me, and I can easily get out of this and I can control the situation. So this is what happens when the dream is not a lucid dream. But when the dream is a lucid dream, what happens? Even though I am chased by a tiger, or even though somebody is spitted at me, that was the example I was using because it was the beginning of the corona. So even means if I didn't have that lucid expression, I would have been under terrible fear. I would have walked up with shivering. But if it is a lucid dream, what happens? I know that, yeah, it's only a dream. Then I'm not that much afraid. So that is why that lucid dream is a dream where the dreamer identity is revealed to the person. So even though I live in a time and space continuum which is different from my current order of reality, I understand that it is different. So that is the lucid dream. So Rohitji, probably this is the best example I have come across to understand this idea. There is no better example that explains this concept very clearly. This is a great example used by Shankaracharya.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
So Rajeshji, is the teaching in the lucid dream that we should always bear in mind that the world is a dream?
The world is not a dream, right? It is only an example. Swapna Drishtanta. World is like a dream. When I say dream, it indicates that there is an order of reality outside of this dream. Why the person in the dream is not afraid of the coronavirus in the dream? Because he knows for sure that I have an existence outside of this dream world. So like that, we need to be convinced, not theoretically, but through experience. So in the dream, understand that somebody comes, a realized master, you meet at Swami Chinmayananda in the dream, and he tells you that, hey, your real identity is the person lying in the bed. You won't you may tend to believe him, but that is not your experience. And unless and otherwise that is not your experience, that fear is always there in you. So right now, theoretically, we know that we do have an existence outside of this order of reality, but that has not become an experience in us. But even that theoretical knowledge is going to give us a little bit comfort, but this Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga path is going to give more strong experiential knowledge of this truth. And when I have it, I'm not afraid of death. I'm complete. I have complete freedom from every problems. So this is what the moksha is. A moksha, a self-realized master, is a person like in having a lucid dream. So he is operating in the dream world, but he knows that he has an outside existence. We'll see this in the Atma Bodha. So this is one of the beautiful example I pulled out from Atma Bodha.
That definitely takes away the fear of death. Even if you're being chased by a tiger, you know that the real you is is safe.
Yeah, exactly. That is what the idea is, and eventually we will get it. It can make the ordinary extraordinary. It can give us tremendous power. And when you have that power, most of the challenges will vanish away. Like you get a bit, even in the dream world, if there is a problem, you will be able to face that problem confidently and challengingly. Now I'm not able to face that problem because of my, remember that problem, obsession and aversion. I'm so much obsessed. Yep. So when I'm pulled away, when I'm out of the clutch of this push and pulls of this obsession and aversion, I can live a free life. Right now, what happened? I'm constrained. I'm constrained through some lot of things. So that is what is called as in Gita, freedom in action. So it's not freedom from action. It is freedom in action. I know what needs to be done. I can do what to do, what not to do, and how to do, and when to do. Because right now, what happens? It is, I'm just programmed. So to act and react, and 80% of the time it is not action, it is reaction.
So
take all of our life, it is like that.
So would you say a jnani has achieved that level?
Of course, the jnani achieved that level. Absolutely. And that jnani won't have pain. Of course the jnani will have pain, but pain is a neural sensation. But the suffering out of that pain, it is totally different. I cannot but quote that book once again, since I'm reading that book almost every day, The Search Inside Yourself. And you can see one chapter beautifully explaining the difference between pain and suffering. And they have a mindfulness practice highlighting that.
Good.
You can refer that. So, any other questions?
Rajeshji, I don't know if we have time, but like in the slide where you had the chart of para prakriti and apara prakriti, and living beings and non-living beings.
Mhm.
If you can just explain that chart one more time,
Sure,
I think that'd be helpful.
of course. This is going to come again, but that's fine. We can explain this once again. So this is what it is. So the absolute reality is known as Paraprakriti, and in Vedanta it is called Sat Vastu. It is uncaused cause. It doesn't have an attribute. It is the absolute reality. It was always there, and it will be always there. It is going to be there. It was there, it is there, and it will be there. There is no question about that. So this is the absolute reality. So from this absolute reality, what happens? The universe get manifested. How the universe get manifested? From the absolute reality, the apara prakriti comes out. Apara prakriti means the fundamental cause of the material universe, which is the physical elements and the subtle elements. So para prakriti, the apara prakriti comes out, and the apara prakriti constitutes of physical elements, which is the physical matter, and the subtle element known as subtle matter. The combination of the physical and subtle matter, the combination of the physical element is all the materials in the universe. It is a rock, it could be a tree, it could be the human body. Everything comes out of that apara prakriti, physical matter. And the subtle matter is what gives the mind, intellect, and ego, and even chitta. It is the subtle matter. So the subtle matter, physical matter comes together. For example, in the case of a rock, there is only physical matter. But in the case of a human being, there is physical matter and the subtle matter. In other words, the physical body and the subtle body. When the physical body, subtle body combination is there, it is capable of reflecting the consciousness aspect of the Paraprakriti. So I can say that there is a bucket, which is a physical matter. There is a water, assume that it is a subtle matter. When you have that bucket and water is there, even though the sun's reflection is there, when there was only bucket, it could not reflect that sun. But when you have that bucket and water combination, and the water is stable and clear, it can reflect the sun. So that is how the combination of the physical and the subtle body can reflect the consciousness, and that is how it appears to have life. And that life itself is the consciousness, or the life itself comes from the Paraprakriti. And even the body comes from the Paraprakriti, but in an indirect way. From Paraprakriti, you get the Aparaprakriti, and Aparaprakriti gives the physical body. And this is a model. This is a model used by Vedanta. Again, the model, remember, I always say that the model is an abstract representation of the reality, right? It's a representation of the reality. So we use a model to explain a phenomena, and that is exactly what this is. And this is one of the beautiful model. Even now, it cannot be shaken much.
Mm-hmm. And Rajeshji, to the extent that the living being reflects the consciousness of Paraprakriti, we consider such a being to be more evolved, or more like a jnani.
Exactly. Because see, in a jnani, that reflection becomes really clear. Mm-hmm. For me, what happens, even though I have the subtle body, that subtle body is water, means take that water. If you take me, in my subtle body, the mind is purely polluted. And my mind is always turbulent. So even though the consciousness get reflected, some expressions come out, it is not the best expression. So every time you do this yoga, you are refining yourself. That's what happens.
Thank you, Rajeshji.
Excellent. So this concludes the 7th chapter. So we will pause here. Means Anu is there. We can chant the 30 verses in 10 minutes. And then we can temporarily stop here, and we can resume during the first week of September. And we will do with chapter 8. And Rohitji, I got your note. I will put together a detailed workshop on emotional intelligence. Even I have requested the curriculum of Search Inside Yourself, and I'm getting it. I will include a portion of also that in that workshop, because that is again an emotional intelligence workshop. So I'm referring both Daniel Goleman's workshop, this Google workshop, and also I'm bringing out all the ideas from our Vedanta. So we will combine all these three. We are already working on that. Vikrant Singh Tomar and I are already working on that. Last year we worked out one, but this one we are refining with all these additional points. So we will do that as soon as we can go to our center, because it needs to be a physical workshop. That would be much, much better, because a lot of exercises are there.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Fantastic, Rajaji. Rajaji, we were also going to, sometime do the session on Upasana Yoga and Karma Yoga.
Yeah, we will do that. Upasana Yoga and Karma Yoga we will do. Definitely, we will have, we can do that. Absolutely. We will do Upasana Yoga, Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, we are going to do that in chapter 3. We can do a workshop, but I'm going to do combining, because the problem, it's not a problem. It's a good problem to have. Karma Yoga touches in different chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. It starts from chapter 2, 3, 4, 5. It touches in 12. It touches in between. Even in 7th chapter, it touches, right? Krishna tells you, do the Karma Yoga. In the last verse is like that, second last verse. And chapter 18, he has a lot of practice. So what I will do is I'll look at the Karma Yoga holistically, and I will try to present it in one. Just like we did the Karma theory, we will do one for Karma Yoga. Mm-hmm. Anything else? I remember, right? Though, so in between now and September, I think Arnabji, I don't know whether it is you or somebody had asked me to do something on Mrityunjaya mantra or Gayatri mantra. Which one you want?
We had spoken about mantras, and I think I had mentioned Gayatri mantra, and yes, maybe Bhuvanaji mentioned Mrityunjaya mantra.
So we will do one session on mantra, and we will take one of this mantra as an example, and we will go through that between now and September, one week.
Okay, great.
So any such topic you want to cover, please put that in the WhatsApp group. We can do that. Okay, so now let me pause and give to Anu. She will chant all the 30 verses. We can close our eyes and listen to that. It's such a wonderful experience. Since you know the meaning, if you know the verse by verse meaning, you will be elevated to a different state, because that itself is a great meditation. Anu, thank you. Mm-hmm.
ॐ श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु। ज्ञानं तेऽहं सविज्ञानम् इदं वक्ष्याम्यशेषतः। यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यत् ज्ञातव्यमवशिष्यते। मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कश्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेत्ति तत्त्वतः। भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च। अहंकार इतीयं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा। अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां। जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत्। एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय। अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा। मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय। मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव। रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः। प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दः खे पौरुषं नृषु। पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ। जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु। बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनं बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहं बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितं धर्मा विरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ ये चैव सात्विका भावाः राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैः एभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञानाः आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुन आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्तः एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः उदाराः सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति समहात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियता स्वया यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम् सतया श्रद्धया युक्तः तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मयैव विहितान् हितान् अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते मामबुद्धयः परं भावमजानन्तः ममाव्ययमनुत्तमम् नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम् वेदाहं समतीतानि वर्तमानानि चार्जुन भविष्याणि च भूतानि मां तु वेद न कश्चन इच्छाद्वेषसमुत्थेन द्वन्द्वमोहेन भारत सर्वभूतानि सम्मोहं सर्गे यान्ति परन्तप येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ताः भजन्ते मां दृढव्रताः जरामरणमोक्षाय मामाश्रित्य यतन्ति ये ते ब्रह्म तद्विदुः कृत्स्नम् अध्यात्मं कर्म चाखिलम् साधिभूताधिदैवं मां साधियज्ञं च ये विदुः प्रयाणकालेऽपि च मां ते विदुर्युक्तचेतसः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे ज्ञानविज्ञानयोगो नाम सप्तमोऽध्यायः।
Thank you, Anu. That is great. Hope you got that feeling in the chanting. And I'm so thankful to God for giving us an opportunity to discuss this chapter, because this is such a wonderful chapter. So any questions, please post in the group. Of course, we can do one session in between on that mantra. Otherwise, we will see in September, but we will continue the other 2 sessions. So Thursday, we have 8:30 p.m. US time, Eastern time, we have the Atma Bodha. We will continue that. And we will continue the Bhagavad Gita session on the other side on Sunday at 5 p.m. We are on 2nd chapter, verse 51. So anybody wants to join, you can join. Okay, thank you. And
Thank you,
Thanks,
Rajesh.
Rajesh.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Arun. Good night.
Anu, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh and Anu.
Thank you so much, Rajesh.
Thanks.